Welcome back to another episode of the Finance Bible podcast. You're joined with myself, Zeke, and fellow co-founder of the Finance Bible, Oscar. Welcome, mate.
Thank you very much for that nice introduction, as always.
No worries. Today we've actually got a very special guest joining, a triumphant, self-employed entrepreneur.
Who's also a homeowner, investor, business owner, consistent six-figure earner, and also my sister, believe it or not. Sophie, welcome to the Finance Bible podcast.
Wow, boys, what an introduction. I feel very humbled.
It's probably our most humble introduction we've ever done.
Absolutely.
To date.
Wow, it's lovely to be here. I'm excited to join you guys today.
Very good.
We're happy to have you here too. Welcome to Sydney.
Thank you.
Hope you're enjoying the pad.
The sunshine, sun's out for you. How are you finding living with us for the weekend?
I was a bit nervous to live with the three boys, but I'm pleasantly surprised. You guys keep a beautiful home.
What are you a bit nervous about?
I'm just scared of
Yeah, what are you
Thinking on the way in.
Look, I grew up with Oscar, and Oscar's always been a bit dirty, so I was
Not
a
at all.
bit
I'm
nervous.
clean as.
A bit dirty.
That's a bit rude.
I don't know
I'm just trying to cut the podcast here now.
No, it's beautiful, guys, and very inspiring. You're very hard workers, constantly on the grind.
Speaking of hard work, you know all about it. I've actually been watching you grind away since 6:30 this morning. Got up, went to the gym, bang, here she is working. As soon as she gets back from the gym, coffee in hand, ready to go. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Did you develop that off me when we were living together at a younger age? Your hard work? Or?
Look, I don't think so, Oscar. I think you've been more into the hard work the last couple of years. I don't really know where it came from. Maybe
No, it was just a gag anyway. So,
okay.
so
Oscar,
don't worry.
if I'm not mistaken, Oscar was actually more about the play as opposed to work.
Oh, come
Before coming
on.
to Sydney,
This
is
is
that right?
turning into a roast. We're supposed to be
I would
interviewing.
agree, Zeke. I would agree.
No, it's good. You've got to get your fun out of your way before you go professional.
Right, it's got to be done. For anyone listening out there who's stuck between the middle, just have a bit of fun, but also take life seriously.
I feel like we should actually create a second podcast on life and dating advice because it tends to come up quite frequently.
Well, after our episode that we dropped last week, we had a few people actually messaging us in regards to just the dating advice. So I think it might actually have to be a business venture.
Oh, no.
So this podcast is going to be divided up into two different sections. Section one, which is part one today, which is what you're listening to right now. It's going to be more about your life, how you started, your business, all that stuff, what you studied,
Getting
and
deep.
really get into the grinding areas of your younger years to getting the business out the first stage. What are we talking about part two, Zeke?
And part two, we're going to do more of a deep dive into Sophie Jane Naturopathy, which is Sophie's business, the ongoings of it, how she went through COVID, upcoming things, and how she's adapting in the world today with different kind of marketing and that kind of thing. Let's jump into it. Sophie, day one, let's go right back. We've heard Oscar's humble beginning. Let's hear a bit of yours. You're born where?
Melbourne.
Freemasons Hospital, was it?
Freemasons
Yep.
Hospital, correct, Oscar?
Good, he knows.
I know.
And then you're living where?
Living in Melbourne, in Malvern, Armidale area.
Okay. And then you go to school. They don't call it kindergarten in Melbourne, they call it prep.
Prep is the first year in Melbourne, correct?
Exactly.
Where'd you go to prep?
Prep, I went to Lauriston, and then I switched over to Wesley in my later years.
Wesley, what an interesting name for a school.
Good old Wesley.
And then
Wear the purple over there.
Exactly.
purple.
Yeah, they wear purple.
Big call. Very confident. I like it. Bold. What years were you there up until?
At Lauriston.
Yeah, go Lauriston.
Yeah,
Wesley.
so I was at Lauriston from prep to year 9, and then I was at Wesley from 10 to
Oh, wow.
12.
It goes all the way through to you.
Yeah.
Okay, so at Lauriston,
Yeah.
what did you learn there in terms of, let's go the financial route first?
Financial. Look, I don't think I really would have learnt much about finances. I think it was so at Lauriston, I wouldn't say we learnt much about money, obviously apart from learning the coins and things like that as you do
School.
prep in year 1.
How to count to 100.
Yep, exactly. But it was a private school, so you're obviously surrounded by people who have money. So I mean that probably affected my view on things, or it may have crept in feelings of comparisons, things like that. But I don't think I learnt much about money.
And was that pretty consistent when you went to Wesley?
I think it was probably a little bit different. Obviously, I was a lot older when I went to Wesley in year 10. So, I mean, I didn't learn much about money per se, but obviously maths was more about kind of the finance.
Well, you were good at maths, weren't you?
Look, no, not really.
No, I swear you were
After
good
all
at
these
maths.
years.
No, I was not good
Because
at
you
maths.
went well at your ATAR, you were good.
Yeah, but I did not do well in maths.
Yeah, right. Wow.
But I think, I mean, I did further maths, and a lot of it is about kind of money and things like that. So, I mean, I probably learnt mostly about that, but I guess it's also the people you're surrounded by in school that might influence your perception of money
Networks
more,
and everything
or-
as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And do you reckon when you left school, it impacted you a little bit? Like not learning all about finances, like budgeting or tax
Absolutely.
or mortgages, etc.?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, one prime example that comes to mind, I think, right out of school, I loved working. So I had lots of different jobs, and I'd do a weekend job, week job, whatever. And I remember it came to tax time, and I thought, I'll do it myself. I'll put in my tax return. Anyway, about 6 weeks later, I got a letter in the mail from the government saying they were investigating me because I'd done it incorrectly.
Oh,
and
no.
I looked like I'd done something
What, you would have been
illegal.
like 18.
Committed tax fraud.
I was, yeah.
18, yeah.
I was 18. I was so scared. I was like, I haven't done anything. I just don't know how to do a tax return.
Everyone get your own accountant if you're doing that.
Yeah, wow, that's impressive.
So I think that's kind
That was
of
a learning lesson.
absolutely. And I think obviously, I mean, it's been said a million times, but I think those kind of things are so important to learn at school.
Isn't it funny? Like, for me, I started work at 14 years old. I did lodge my first probably 3 tax returns, 14, 15, 16. After that, I didn't because of obvious reasons. You get more things going on with your money.
That smirk, that dodgy smirk.
But yeah, I remember 14, 15, 16 lodging my tax return, and I actually had to get mum and dad to kind of help a little bit at that age. Isn't it interesting you don't even learn the simple thing of lodging a tax return
Yeah, you learn
in
nothing.
school? Like someone at Macca's or what's another common job? KFC, Hungry Jack's,
Also a waiter at a
a
restaurant.
waiter, a takeaway shop, whatever it is. Lodging a tax return for that between being like 15 and 18, there shouldn't be too involved. Everyone should know how to do it, and you don't. So yeah, you learn nothing about tax, nothing about finance.
Everyone falls in the same boat.
Simple addition. Interesting point you made actually about private school being surrounded by people who obviously have money and stuff. That kind of made you think, well, they've got money, I want money, or whatever it was. You tell me if that's the wrong thought process.
I don't think it was they've got money, I want money, but I think it would be more so that was somewhat what I thought was a norm because I was surrounded by it my whole life.
Yeah, okay.
But it's also, I mean, this is not my older years, it's more so younger years when you're obviously a little sponge and you don't really know much about anything. But I think obviously comparison comes into play as well.
The little sponge.
Yeah.
Little sponge, I like that.
Oscar and I have had the discussion before because he obviously went to private schools too.
Obviously.
For the listeners that know. But yeah, I didn't. I went to a public school. And for me, the norm there was not necessarily not having money, but obviously not driving Mercedes or being super wealthy or anything like that. I think that path, for me, actually exposed the idea of...
You want
Yeah,
money.
I want money.
Yeah.
Like I've seen people without it. Not without it, but, you know, people who aren't millionaires and stuff like that. And then when I did come across that life, it was kind of like, oh, shit, I can't be stuck in this forever. I need to get out of here. So it's interesting the way that
The different
things
comparisons.
work. And like for private school people, it's normal. And they go, well, I've kind of got to do that because it's normal. And then in the public route, you can either go, oh, shit, there's better out there, or this is my normal, I'm just going to stay.
Yeah.
Really
Absolutely.
interesting.
It is interesting, isn't it?
And then finishing school, talk about your uni, because you studied business originally.
I did. So, yes. So originally I went to Monash and I studied business and health science, which was good. I did that for a year and I liked it. But what I found was it was very not specific, if that makes sense. I was thinking to myself...
Too broad.
Yeah, I was feeling a little bit unfulfilled, not really all excited about the content. And I was just thinking, in 4 years when I finish, what am I going to be? I'm going to be a health scientist. I don't even know if that's a technical name for anything.
What is health science?
It's just
Dietitian
health,
and
really.
stuff, or?
No, you'd have to do further study. So I finished, so I was, doing that at Monash for a year and, and then a little bit unfulfilled.
Yeah, but you didn't finish it, did you? You moved.
No, I did a year. So the way it all worked was in one of my health science classes, it was, we were doing a project about different careers within the health science realm, and we picked out of a hat different careers, and I picked out a naturopath, and I had to do a presentation on being a naturopath and everything about it. And I did this presentation. I was like, oh my gosh, I wish I could do that.
There you go,
And-
sliding doors.
Yeah, sliding doors, right? Anyway, and then I hadn't made a decision, of course. I felt like that was quite a rogue thing to study, if I'm completely honest. But I decided the next year that I wanted to take a gap year and go traveling a little bit. So I, what do you call it? You defer. I deferred my uni degree. Yeah. And I worked a lot, and then I did my little travel stint, and then I decided to take the plunge and study to be a naturopath, which was the next step.
It's interesting. I didn't know that even existed, naturopath, until I met you and Oscar.
Yeah, a lot of people don't. I didn't know either. When you started, I had no idea.
Give the listeners an idea of what that actually is.
So a naturopath, I would say, is a natural health practitioner, really. So we work on the whole person. So ultimately looking at conditions, say somebody comes with stress, we don't just work on the stress. Our job is to understand why you're experiencing the stress and work at the root cause of the issue, and do that, obviously working at the root cause, but working on the whole person. And we do that through, I like to lean into a lot of counseling for my clients, but then also nutritional changes, lifestyle changes, and we also have the tools of herbs and or supplementation that we utilize as well. There are a lot of naturopaths though that use other other methods, yeah. But that's kind of what we do as a whole.
Okay.
Yeah, because I remember I had there's something wrong with me. I had a gut bug.
You did have a gut bug.
Something wrong with my stomach, and I was like, "Oh, hang on, my sister's a naturopath." So I got some. You made it like some little potion.
Yeah, we used some
It was
herbs
quite funny.
A little bit of witchery.
Yeah, we used a few herbs on Oscar.
And I started drinking some of that, and literally the next month it was all good.
Yeah.
Which is just strange.
Yeah, and you'd had that issue since you were
pretty young, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
There we go.
Yeah.
Magic.
So it does work.
So you're responsible for your great physique at the moment.
Yeah.
Sophie responsible for Oscar.
That's it.
Wow.
Who would have thought?
There you go.
When you started to study naturopathy, what was the actual degree?
So the actual degree is a health science degree. So it's a Bachelor of Health Science, majoring ultimately in naturopathy.
Right.
So there are only a handful of unis that offer that course. So I went to a place called Endeavour in the city, and it's a 4-year course. A lot of it is in person. So I found that quite different to a lot of my friends at uni. They didn't have as many contact hours, so that was tricky, but it was a 4-year degree. It was great. I really liked it. It was stressful and a lot of content, but it was really, really good.
Starting that, how old were you?
19, I believe, because I'd taken a year.
Yep, so you've done your fun.
Yeah, had my fun.
Like we were speaking about earlier, have your fun.
Yeah.
And get serious.
Yeah, exactly right.
And so finishing that 23 years
I
old?
think I was 24 when I finished.
24? Okay, and where to from there?
So I finished in December, I would assume, November, December. Then I wanted a bit of a break, about a month. But me and my partner went traveling. We went to New Zealand. We did a road trip, which was amazing.
Oh, was that before?
Before I started,
Really?
yeah.
As if.
I know, it's crazy.
How good is New Zealand?
Oh,
Yeah, New
far
Zealand's
out.
great, isn't it?
Incredible.
I love Queenstown.
Yeah, whenabouts did you go? Like time of the year?
We went in December.
December?
You did a whole road trip, didn't you?
Freezing.
From top to bottom.
No, we started
South
in
Island.
Yes, the bottom half of South Island.
Yeah,
so we
right.
landed in Christchurch, then went down, around, and then up again, which was amazing.
Down to Queenstown.
Down to Queenstown, yep,
love
exactly,
it.
and then up the coast. It was just incredible. We had the best time.
So you came back from New Zealand and then you had a thought to make your own practice.
Well, I mean, I remember finishing uni and I was so focused on starting my business straight away. I was putting so much pressure on myself. And I remember being in New Zealand and trying to figure out my website and my offerings and everything. And I always talk to, my partner or when my friends are starting businesses. And I felt as though when I started, I was like a horse with blinkers on. I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't really know what I had to do, but I was just trying to go.
Trying to make it work.
Yeah.
You had a
Do
end
anything.
goal,
Yeah.
but everything in between, you had no idea.
No idea.
So you could have utilised one of our most recent podcasts. Setting a goal. You've got your end
Yeah,
goal.
that's a very good point.
You need the breakdown of in between.
Only if we released
how
it
to
5
get
years
there.
ago.
Yeah.
Our apologies. I guess we should have been quicker that we could have helped more people.
Well, there could be people out there right now in the same situation
Yeah,
as you were.
absolutely.
So listen to the goal setting.
Yep, good idea.
So yeah, you had the blinkers on.
I had my blinkers on and I do have a tendency to put a lot of pressure on myself. And I did that and I got things in order and I think I started seeing clients in Jan of 2019. So it started that year.
So putting the pressure on yourself, did you feel that helped you get where you needed to go?
Definitely. I think if you're going to own or run your own business, I mean, I wouldn't use the word pressure, but I think you need to be incredibly self-motivated. Because otherwise, I mean, as you guys would know, it's not going to go anywhere if you're not motivating yourself.
You can't just sit back with your hands in the air and just go,
just wait for it to happen.
Someone's going to come and buy stuff or pay me to do something.
Yeah.
Before you went out, did you sit down with yourself or like a family member or an accountant or something and look at like financial projections to see if it actually is viable?
I mean, in our final semester, we did have a business subject where we kind of had to put together a very vague, not vague, but a business plan. So I did that. So I kind of knew what I needed to do in the profitability, but I did not, and this is probably not something I'd recommend, I did not put together a business plan for my specific business.
Yeah.
Walking through business plans, let's put a little bit of time on that. So they can vary pretty drastically. You can have a 2-page business plan, like this is what we do, this is our projections. On the other hand, you can have a really in-depth 35-page one on
every
exact
single
marketing plan, month 1 to 3.
Roles and responsibilities, cash flow.
Yep, cash flow, roles and responsibilities, problems that you could encounter, how you're going to overcome them, more solutions, your point of difference,
Marketing.
all of that kind of stuff. To what level would you recommend someone would do if they're looking at starting a business in your kind of industry?
That's an interesting question. I think it depends on the situation. I mean, if you're going with a business partner, I think it's more important to do a much more detailed plan.
Yeah.
So you're both on the same page. But I would say probably somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, the happy medium. We call it the Goldilocks.
Yeah.
Goldilocks.
Some good porridge. I agree with that. Probably regardless of what business you actually enter, I think somewhere in the middle, unless you're doing like a really legislated kind of...
intense.
Yeah, then you might want a bit more planning. But
Definitely like get a business plan in place, because it's one thing to just jump into it. And it's another thing to write it down and actually get the projections.
Yeah, so current key takeaways: make goals, break it down, make a business plan. It doesn't have to be
That's it. One page.
But have something ready to go.
So how did you get your first clients? Like, was that through marketing? Was it through referrals? Like, what was the go?
Referrals. So I started out renting a room in an osteo clinic. So that was like my first kind of... I
do remember that, yeah.
Yeah.
So I get a clinic you had,
Yeah. And so I think I'd get referrals from other practitioners, but one of the main sources of referrals was actually my cousin. Give you a shout out, Steph. But no,
listening in London, hopefully.
Yeah.
I'll be messaging her before this goes out and tell her to listen.
But no, Steph, honestly, I remember my first year of business, I was so grateful to Steph because she was my little word of mouth angel. She was telling all her friends and everyone about me, and that I really feel like that helped a lot.
Yeah.
And I really feel like when your friends are starting a business, that's so important to stand by their side and really support them in that, because it's hard when you start a business. But one of my lecturers told me, and this has stuck with me to this very day, she always said to me, all you need is one client. And if you do that one client well and you do a great job, they'll refer on. And I found a lot of peace in that. Like, and near the end of my studies, I felt as though I could get one client and I could make it work.
Then you did.
Then I did.
And now how many do you have, like, roughly?
I don't know, Oscar.
She doesn't sit here with a tally and go, add it.
Surely, you have a rough amount of people you work with.
Yeah, but I have return clients. I've got new clients and I won't see them for a while. Then I'll see them
Let's just say it's increased quite a bit.
Yeah, it's a consistent client base.
That's what we hope so, yeah.
From one after
you would.
5
You would
years.
hope so.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a couple of really great pieces of advice for friends, leaning on those relationships, leaning on your family, leaning on your friends, trying to helping
your mates out.
Like just help them out. If you've got family, friends, utilize them. There's definitely people that they would know that they can pass on the number, have a chat, see where it goes.
And also, if one of your friends or family is starting out a business, help them out. Tell your friends to go see him or have a look and see if they can actually help you as well.
But at that point in time of you getting that first referral from your cousin, did you have like your website and everything set up, or where was the actual business at?
Great question. I had all the back end stuff done. So I had my website, I had my Instagram page, I had my bank account sorted, I had my insurance, like I had all those things that had to be done. And I made sure of that. So I felt like I had a good foundation to start with. Yeah, definitely.
Instagram, I feel personally, is a really good tool for people in your industry, in our industry, depending on the demographic you're targeting. So, for us, we want young listeners who are kind of wanting to build their finance, and we want to help them, and they're going to be listening to podcasts. They're going to be on Instagram, TikTok, that kind of thing. So we can reach them through there for you. You know your demographic better than me, but I feel like people who are really interested in their health and that kind of thing are probably more active on the social medias as well and looking into alternate solutions. Is that right?
Absolutely. Instagram has been so important for my business. So important. Especially in like the COVID times as well. I really leaned into Instagram a little bit. But yeah, and also my demographic, I work with young females, so 18 to 40 years old. Most of them being 18 to mid 30s. Or
Is it females only, or is it kind of both? It just depends.
It's an interesting question. So when I started out, I was just like, I'll take anything, I'll work with anybody, as you do when you own a business, right? And you're starting out. But as the years went on, I definitely have lent into females. And now I would say 95% of my clients are females, if not 97, 98%.
Right.
So females, young demographic, they are obviously very active on Instagram. So it has been fundamental, really.
Do you find that there's, like, in regards to males in the naturopath world, are they more like you have 98% girls and females? Would males tend to use naturopathy, or
I think
like what's the go?
Yeah, I think you'd actually be surprised. A lot of them are really, really open to it. A lot of the male clients are either my clients' brothers or my clients' partners.
So they don't initially seek it out. They just get handed it by someone and they're like, oh crap, I should be doing
Boyfriend
this.
should have this, or both should have this.
But also a lot of people go to a naturopath as their last resort. They're like, we've tried everything, nothing's working, I'm desperate for help. And then they go, oh, maybe I'll give a naturopath a go. So other guys are kind of like that. They're at that point where they're just happy to give whatever a go because they want relief from whatever they're experiencing.
Like with your clients, etc. There must be a moment which is probably your proudest, like client win.
Yeah. It's
What would it be, you reckon?
Client wins.
Like your proudest moment as as their naturopath.
Yeah. I love that question. I feel very grateful because I do feel like it's a job where I do feel like there are so many beautiful moments. But I would say definitely some of my proudest or my client wins are absolutely when my clients fall pregnant after trying for years and they've tried everything and then we get that positive pregnancy test. It's
rewarding.
It's amazing.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh my gosh, it's just incredible. So definitely that. But honestly, something else that stands out to me, and this isn't specific to one client at all, it's kind of as a whole, but when my clients start to love themselves again and like in terms of that, improving their relationship with themselves and food and their perception of themselves
and their partners.
Just everything.
Yeah, but that's beautiful.
Sounds like you need that, mate.
Oh mate, I'm good. I love myself. I'm all good.
But I think just self-love is so important, and I love seeing that in my clients when they develop it finally.
Yeah.
Bit of a left side question, but when they have the children after not being able to for so long, is it common that they might name their baby Sophie? Or put a middle name in or something?
You would hope so after, the hard work that you put in to make this actually happen.
Oh my gosh. Not as of yet.
Wow.
Maybe
well,
one
not
day.
That you know of.
Not that I know of. Look, I generally get a picture of the baby after and they're like, meet such and such. I haven't had a Sophie yet, but...
Yet. That's right.
I think it's coming. Like,
I hope so. That'd be amazing.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, it's kind of due. Like you've basically given them a child.
If any of your clients are listening, they should take that up.
I have not given them a child. I've led them in the right direction. Oh. The client does all the hard work, guys.
Yeah, fair enough.
Fair enough.
You're not wrong.
So, COVID-19, especially in Melbourne, was pretty rough with
Absolutely.
the lockdowns and the curfew, etc.
Different life for you guys there.
Whole different life at that time.
Yeah.
Small businesses, you were having a lot of in-person consults before.
All in person.
So what happened? Like, what did you have to adapt? Because a lot of companies went under.
Well, hang on. Getting the timeline of that first. You'd started your business roughly what year?
So it would have been a year before, 2019.
So you've only had 1 year of operating fully face-to-face, like Oscar said. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, bang, Dan the Man is what we call him here in New South Wales. Not sure if
Definitely
it's a meme or
not.
Yeah, I was trying to trigger you. And bang, COVID hits. What do you do? What happens?
Yeah, so I vividly remember, so it was 14 months into business. And I remember I went over to my dad's house for dinner and I was tearing up. I think I was actually crying and I was saying to Dad, what am I going to do? I'm not going to be able to afford rent. What's going to happen? Like I was petrified because I thought, I can't work anymore. So I was really scared, but I remember I sat down with myself and I thought, okay, there's two options here. Either I pull back completely and hold on to all the money I have and just try and live off this, or I put more money into my business. And I did that through Google Ads. I decided to start Google Ads. I'm going to put more money into that. I went completely online. So I started consulting on Zoom. And yeah.
And did you find that it actually, during that time, I feel like a lot of people were isolated, so they kind of wanted to chat to someone. So that's where it would actually be very beneficial for yourself.
Absolutely. I had the biggest growth period during COVID years.
Wow.
I think partly the isolation, definitely. People needed a lot of emotional support. But also what I found was that busy women who have been holding off having a baby due to career and different priorities all of a sudden took a moment to sit back and go, I actually really want a baby. And so there's a lot of fertility work during COVID as well, which is beautiful.
So COVID for you was a juncture between moving on and moving forward.
Yeah.
And you moved forward with the business, and it actually was probably one of the most pivotal moments in your business life.
Well, yeah, it's basically invest in the business and grow that, or just pull back and you're back to where you were.
Yep.
And in hindsight, looking back, you'd have to be like extremely proud of the decision you made, the balls you had.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's scary being kind of owning your business just with me. I don't have anybody to talk to or make decisions with. And that's something I've struggled with a little bit. It's just up to me. And so, yeah, it was scary.
Do you have like a mentor or anyone like that you tend to speak to?
I mean, I probably turn to mum or dad for business advice, but I don't have a mentor specifically.
And so at the time, you mentioned you were worried you wouldn't be able to afford rent, so you were renting at that point in time. Do you think that put extra stress on you because you had to afford rent, you weren't owning your own home? Or were you like, it's okay, I'm only renting, I can go elsewhere? Or
I think the latter. I felt like because I have such an incredible family, I knew if I couldn't afford rent, I could fall back and move back in to the family home kind of thing. So I felt confident in that.
I love the all or nothing play though. That's
that's a good
great.
play.
Yeah.
It's like a movie scene, isn't it?
Yeah.
The start of a movie, and then all of a sudden they're living the lavish life.
Lavish.
Lavish life.
A bit of glamorous, you could say.
By Fergie. Classic tune, that one.
Great song.
Great song.
For people in a similar position, challenges in businesses now might not be so directly related to COVID, but if there is some kind of challenge they're facing where they know, okay, it's an all or nothing play here, I can either get out while I can or go all for it, what would you be saying to them?
Look, I'm also, one of the key kind of things I live by is attracting what you put out. So what you put out, you'll get back in, if that makes sense. So ultimately manifestation, energy and things like that. So partly what I think about, and this is coming up, I think, with the pending recession as well, is do you want to live out of scarcity and fear, or do you want to put out what you want to receive? So I would always say go all in.
Yeah, I love that mindset.
That energy transfer.
We just got to risk it for the biscuit.
I know, in a smart way.
That is another good saying.
That's my favourite.
Yeah.
For that biscuit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously every situation is so individualized, but
definitely.
I really, really think energetics in business is important.